I see Travis is with us and Mayor Ron Higgins is with us. So let's get this show on the road. Firstly, thank you very much to Neil to organizing this once again. And welcome to everybody. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Today is the 19th of January, 2019. And we certainly have a lot to discuss and a lot to be shared and to be grateful for and to be excited about. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to Rebecca as well, and from Colorado. So what I'm going to do, just first of all, let me go through my list here. Thanks to all the people that continue supporting the Ubuntu movement, although our support is not that huge at the moment. From a donation perspective, from a soul and body perspective, it's huge and growing. So thank you to all those that are making the contributions to help contribute to some of the costs in the office here. And I hope that keeps growing because that is ultimately the lifeblood here. Thanks to all the people that are spreading the message, to all the positive messages and the hundreds of emails every week and thousands of emails every month of support and enthusiasm and so forth. So what I'd like to start off with by saying, first of all, we're going to be talking to Travis Duncan, is joining us, who ran for mayor in Austin, Texas. I'm sure all of you are aware of that. If not, we hear all about it from Duncan. Thanks for joining us, Duncan. And Mayor Ron Higgins from Ontario, Canada, from North Frontenac, who was the first mayor in the world to really embrace the one small town strategy. It's fantastic to have Ron here with us to get all the feedback and information from him, from what they've learned in the last year, and their challenges and their successes, and what we can learn into the future. I have quite a few great success stories to share with you, specifically from South Africa. But first of all, I think let's recap on and have a look at what's going on in the world. And I think it's quite obvious that no matter where you look today, every newspaper you read, every news channel you watch, and radio station you listen to, it's just very obvious that things are just getting worse and worse. Everyone, everywhere, no matter where you live, is under more and more pressure. And so to me, that is quite obvious that whoever is pulling the strings, the puppet masters, are constantly turning on the pressure and squeezing the pressure cooker and turning up the heat, because it certainly isn't getting any easier. And no matter how hard we work and how much we do and how much we run around, it just seems to be getting tougher and tougher to make ends meet and to survive. And it's really for that reason that I believe we need to get more and more, be grateful and be excited about the solution that we have evolved that has evolved out of the Ubuntu movement and the one small town strategy that is over 13 years now, slowly but surely evolved into what I personally believe is the way for the future. And if there was another movement that had a solution, I would be supporting those and that movement. And at this stage, it seems that we are the only movement that actually has a plausible, workable solution. And this is really what we need to realize, recognize, and work on expanding that and spreading the message so that we really get into the heart and the actual implementation of the one small town on a much larger scale than it has been taken up until now. But I believe that what we've done until now has really been a training ground and a learning ground, and we're constantly learning, no matter what we do and how you perceive this. Everything we do is part of the learning experience, and we'll hear a lot more from Ron Higgins about that. So what's next on my agenda here? So as I mentioned, life's getting tougher. We can certainly feel it here in South Africa. I can sense it from people who write to me all over the world, whether it's Australia, whether it's the so-called first world countries in Europe, or the African countries, or the South American countries, and even Australia. Things are just getting tougher and tougher. And that, I believe, is the big opportunity for the Ubuntu movement and our one small town strategy. So cheers to that. Well, I have a quick a sip of my coffee before it gets cold. And if you have an Ubuntu mug, then have a sip of coffee as well. Join me. So a quick update on the website. since the last webinar we held, I had a very pleasant response from people that work in the IT business, and it's been an interesting evolution of the Ubuntu IT and website development. So I'd like to really thank Gustavo and Urosh mainly, who've been sort of spearheading a group of people who've put up their hands to help the Ubuntu movement with our IT, upgrading the website, making it really simple and user-friendly, and also creating what seems to be a very complex structure. And again, this is the IT guys that tell me how difficult this is to actually create a website and an IT program that allows the head office to interact with regional or national coordinators in pretty much, many countries around the world. Then those coordinators to be able to interact with regional coordinators in their country, and also interact with hosts of one small gathering. So this has turned out to be a far more complex situation. And I believe that between Gustavo and Urosh and a number of the other people that have put up their hands, we are very close to resolving that situation, so that very soon, and I do believe that very soon, the Ubuntu Planet website will actually have a fully functional page for every country that has a national coordinator, and then broken down into regions and into those that the hosts, the so-called hosts of the One Small Gathering events, which ultimately is what we need to talk about here, which is going to become the heartbeat, I believe, of the growth of the Ubuntu movement at ground level, in small gatherings, meetup groups, regular meetup groups by people in small communities and suburbs of the cities, where plans and action is going to be planned to take the message of One Small Town forward and introduce it into that community. So on the South African side, we have a lot of very exciting feedback and news to share with you. As I've mentioned before, the One Small Town strategy is really aimed at towns where mayors are elected by the people. In South Africa, unfortunately, as in several other countries, mayors are not elected by their people. Mayors are appointed by the ruling party that has won the election. And this obviously is a huge problem, because the mayors then are basically puppets of the political regime and are not responsible to the people, or are not appointed by the people and don't really care what the people of the town want. They just implement the policy of the ruling party. So in South Africa, it's been an interesting journey. I have spoken to several mayors, probably about 5 mayors throughout South Africa, that were incredibly positive and enthusiastic about this. But then unfortunately, their hands were tied and remain tied. And then something interesting happened. I started to form a relationship and an alliance with one of the very strong social activists in South Africa for many, many years, the leader of the United Democratic Front, which is a non-political organization, which finally we could come together and start creating some sort of a collaboration. And the guy that I'm working with's name is Tebogo Malema. Interestingly enough, he is actually the cousin of the very vocal South African political party that's often causes a lot of trouble, Julius Malema, who's the leader of that, and in many ways is causing a lot of ripples and not always positive waves. But Tebogo is a completely different kind of human, and he truly is a humanitarian at heart. And I've had the pleasure of working with him for a number of years now, from delivering the petition to the South African Reserve Bank in Cape Town, basically spelling it out to them. I don't know if some of you have seen the video where I delivered that petition to the South African Reserve Bank, following with a petition and the letter to the Minister of Finance in Cape Town at Parliament. And but obviously that doesn't lead anywhere. That's just something, it's just really a publicity stunt for the Ubuntu movement. They're never going to respond. They never responded to any of those letters and petitions, but it certainly was an interesting experience. So Tebogo and I have formed an alliance with the Ubuntu movement. He has access to pretty much any any level politician and very senior people in South African government on all levels because of the path that he has walked and the kind of credibility that he carries. This has resulted in a number of mayors suddenly opening their doors to the concept of us coming in and helping that mayor solve the problems in their towns. And I'm sure Ron Higgins is going to share his experience with us that pretty much all the mayors of the world, there might probably be a few exceptions, but most of the mayors in the world have a really tough job because there's never enough money to do what the mayors and the town councils are supposed to do. Delivery of service and all the things that the people are paying taxes for, but there's just never enough money to do things for the towns, to upkeep the town and make things run smoothly and keep things operating properly. And so these mayors in South Africa have suddenly realized that we are no longer a political threat. Now, as an alliance with the UDF, we suddenly have a very simple solution that will make the mayor not only look good, but also provide a solution for problems that they cannot solve. They simply do not have answers to solve these problems. So suddenly the One Small Town strategy is being embraced by a number of South African mayors, and sometimes in large contingencies and very large municipalities, because they see this as a way out of a mess and just a deepening problem on a weekly and a monthly basis that they cannot get out of. And this has led to some very high-level agreements with the electricity providers in South Africa, which has opened the doors to us as this new alliance to bring alternative sources of electricity. So I'm not going to mention too much details, but we're basically at the level of signing an agreement with our energy partners in the USA, who will be building the first reasonably large power plant here in South Africa that will become the foundation for bringing this new prosperity and abundance to the people of that particular municipality. This is a slight deviation from the One Small Town strategy for around the world, where mayors are appointed and literally focuses on the small town. This has taken on a slightly different angle, but a very exciting angle, because suddenly we will have a lot of income once this power plant has been built, and we trust it will be built in the next 12 months, a very large power plant. We believe that this will bring a lot of income and funding for that community to set up a number of projects and businesses, as we all know, are run and managed by the community, and some investors that get involved in those projects at the same time. We have also been given land by farmers and other people with landowners that have given us large amounts of land. We've already got, this is on Tebogo's side, he has done a lot of work on this already. He's a real negotiator and interesting guy to certainly work with, but certainly knows how to push the buttons and how to make things happen. We've been given so much land that I trust we're going to find something to do with it, but also to grow organic corn as one of the major first initiatives, to grow organic corn on a large scale and create a huge knock-on effect of using that organic corn in so many different applications. You can imagine how organic corn can be used in so many different food substances and food products, and also mainly become an exporter of that organic corn to the world. So these are just some of the exciting developments here from South Africa. We are very close to, well, I'm awaiting the contract from our energy partners on Monday, and we trust that it's going to be signed very speedily so we can initiate this construction of this new power plant, very large power plant. And on that note, I would like to, unless I've forgotten anything, let me just check my list here. I'd like to now invite Travis Duncan. Are you there, Travis? Travis Duncan from Austin, Texas, who ran for mayor in November 2018. And I haven't spoken to Travis pretty much since then, since just after his mayoral campaign. Are you there, Travis?
Yes, I'm here. Hello. How's it going?
Awesome. So good to see you, brother.
Yeah, so hello everybody. It's great to be here. It sounds like there's an echo. I don't know if maybe if you need to mute your audio or what's going on.
All right, I'll mute my audio and let you talk. And if anyone else has got their microphones open, please close them. I'll do the same. So Travis, I'll just open the floor and let you get on with it. Please take us through your preparation, the elections, how many votes you got, and what has happened since then, because I certainly am very keen to hear that, and I know so many people are waiting to hear it from you personally.
Yeah, so thank you for being here. So if anybody is not aware of what actually happened, I'll just quickly summarize it. Michael touched on it briefly, but I ran for mayor in Austin, Texas, which is actually the 11th largest city in the United States. So it's a very big undertaking in a certain sense. And I really put Ubuntu contributionism out there as a major key to the solutions that we were proposing for the city. And I will say that, although we didn't win the election, obviously, that everyone would have known that if we had, we got about 3% of the vote. The dynamics politically in the United States still are very, very tied to money. So obviously, the incumbent mayor, the current mayor who just was elected to his second term, had over $1 million to his campaign in his spending, and we had $700 that we self put in, and so oddly enough, we still live in that paradigm. The first thing I want to say is that I think it's important that as many people run for office as possible. We just need as many people to jump in and run for office and do it because number one, it attracts a tribe of people. It's like you're calling out to everybody in the city. Here we are. Where are you? Here's our ideas. Where are you? And so it attracts your tribe. We got just over 6,500 votes. And even throughout the campaign, people are so busy just trying to make it, just trying to survive, just trying to pay their bills, that it's easy to feel like you're alone in your city. It's easy to feel like you are, like no progress is happening. And as soon as we put this campaign out, some amazing, beautiful, incredible people surfaced themselves throughout the campaign. Probably like a collective tribe of like about 12 to 20 core people, and then several hundred who were in the orbit, who were, paying attention and interacting online consistently. And I was really unsure how many votes we would actually get, because you have to penetrate the consciousness of this political campaign and the election, and with Donald Trump and everything that's going on, and it's just, there's so much noise that you have to break through, and there's so many people running for office at the same time. So it's a really fun dynamic, because I got to meet all the people that were running for Congress and for Senate and all the different races, for school board, for everything. And, we really built a lot of strong alliances,
Travis,
yeah, please.
Can I ask you this? How did the media respond to you, to your campaign? Did you get any kind of interesting support, or what is your feedback and take on how the media handled you and your participation?
Yeah, it's, the media, they did write about me, that you can Google, you can look up articles, Travis Duncan, mayoral candidate, and they definitely are still here to protect the status quo. Even if they're not necessarily aware of it themselves, they would always refer to, actually they in some instances they referenced you to try to debunk me, or to say that you're an alien conspiracy theorist. And so just the typical tactics and the typical thing that you would expect of the media to do. Just one example is I'm a musician, and I play the drums, and I haven't really been a professional drummer for a long time, but in every article they said Travis Duncan, a drummer, running for office. So they use these subtle ways to try to manipulate the public perception of you. And I think because I'm 29 years old, because I don't appear as your typical politician, I speak very directly, and I think people have their own biases. However, I will say something, that there are hundreds of thousands of people in Austin who don't vote and who don't participate in politics at all, and who have been so disillusioned by the process. And when I would have face-to-face interaction with those people, the positivity and the reception and their excitement was just undeniable. And they were saying, "Oh my God, I'm not even registered to vote," and it was past the deadline to register. That's another thing in our in our system is the voting justice, so to speak, is very, very bad. It's very low. So there's a lot of people that are pushed out of the process, and the people that we were able to get in front of, even people that you wouldn't expect, people that are in the political class, so to speak, that are kind of in this status quo establishment in Austin, they would come up to me in private, and they would tell me, "Listen, I agree with everything that you're doing." And even the current mayor, and even the other mayoral candidates, when we met privately, they said, "I agree with all of your ideas," except they just didn't want me to be the one to do it. Still waiting to be seen if they're willing to be open to collaborating in some way. I've been messaging and reaching out since the campaign to these people, and haven't got much response.
Travis, the main thing that happened here from where I'm looking at it is that, like you said, you got about 3% of the votes, about 7,000 votes, which is a huge success. I mean, suddenly there's 7,000 people. If you put those people, it's a lot of people. If you go to a concert with 7,000 people, that's a big crowd of people. Mm-hmm. You can imagine trying to rally those people now to an Ubuntu event would probably be far more successful than the previous attempts we've made to bring people to an Ubuntu event. So you've now laid a platform there of people that know who you are, you know what you stand for, they know that it's part of a much bigger global philosophy, and not just in Austin, Texas, and everyone is aware of you, many people are aware of you, whether they like it or not. And so subconsciously that seed has been planted. So what you did was absolutely brilliant. And I need to support exactly what you said right up front, is that we need to find many more people to run for mayor. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly where the one small gathering strategy comes in. So I believe that the one small gathering should be the regular meetups in towns and villages and suburbs. Obviously in the cities is going to be in the suburbs, in the small towns it can be a small gathering or a town gathering. But we have a few great examples of success stories of the meetup groups that have grown really well. And it's at these regular one small gathering meetup groups that we will share the plan of action for the one small town, really share as much information so people truly get it like you got it. That's why you could stand on that on that mayoral pedestal and speak about it with absolute confidence because it was in your DNA already. You didn't have to think about it. It just comes out naturally. Same as Ron Higgins did when he started his process in North Frontenac. When I met Ron that first time at lunch in Canada, I knew immediately that I didn't have to say anything else to him. He got it, that's it. Thank you. Now we got to find hundreds and thousands of people to go and do exactly the same. And I believe that the one small gathering, first of all, we take the proposal letter to the existing mayor. And if the existing mayor doesn't want to go with it, then we find the most suitable candidate from that group of people in our meetup group to then run for mayor the next election. So you hit the nail right on the head. And this is what I want to talk a little bit, a lot more about actually, and in the weeks to come, and inspire people with the small gatherings or the regular meetup groups to start thinking along those lines. And people will know instinctively whether their mayor will want to go for it or not. They already know these things, right? So start looking for the most suitable candidate. Somebody that's like you, that is, young. Well, they don't have to be young, but they certainly need to be well-spoken, really clear-minded about this, and not have to think about the solutions. It needs to come from gut feel and from your DNA instantly when you engage people in conversation. And from your experience, you could answer any question when the media, if the media asked you any question about what's your stance on this, on the health issue, on the education issue, on the military issue, what's your stance on anything? You could have given him an answer that is far more elegant and eloquent than any of the other politicians, because your answer comes from a place of real knowing where the problems are and not just fishing for solutions. So, well done. And I can't wait to see how that core group of 7,000 odd people in Austin, Texas grows and evolves to the next electoral campaign. What is your plan as far as that's concerned?
Well, I'm definitely going to run again in 2022 here in Austin, which is the next time the mayor campaign happens. And then there's also a council election in 2020. So I'm actively thinking about who can we recruit to run for council in 2020. And a couple notes on that. One of the paradigms for people who are just a regular voter who are going to just see you for the first time, they're expecting people who are lawyers, who are business people, who are more well-established, who have families, who have children, who've been in the community for X number of years, who run a nonprofit, all of these kind of packaged items. And so as we're recruiting people, I do think it is a smart strategic move to think about who can we recruit that already seems like somebody that people are going to trust. And I have no doubt that if we were in a small town, with maybe some different dynamics, I could have been elected, because there's plenty of mayors in their 20s and things that have no relative previous experience in smaller towns throughout the country. This is, like I said, this is one of the biggest cities in the country. And so a little bit, people had this apprehension, like, oh, I don't know if I want to turn the keys over to you quite yet. And so it was a little frustrating in that sense, but it was also very exciting because I could feel that I was piercing through people's, ideas of what they previously thought were possible. And there were many people. The rooms that I did get in front of, we had these candidate forums where there was, all the mayor candidates, and there's 20 to 100 people in a room, and we answer questions and we talk about the policies. I would say, consistently, at least a third or half of the people were nodding and clapping and very deeply thinking about what I would say, with any particular answer. And they say, well, how can you disagree with that? That makes the most sense. But I'm so conditioned to vote for that lawyer guy that I'm not going to deviate from that, and so it is important. Just I don't know how much time we have, but just a couple notes. Suggestions when you run, because I know there's somebody on this call that's going to run. I can feel it. I don't know how many. We have 43 participants on there, so somebody is going to run who's on this call in your town. And so it's important that you understand the political dynamics of the town and tailor the message to fit the local solutions. And Ron Higgins knows this, best, and has really inspired us and led on this direction. And I would say, just for example, in Austin, we have a utility company that we own, that is a publicly owned utility, which technically means it's a state-owned utility, but that's another conversation. But it's a publicly owned utility company, and we presented the energy partners as the solution to convert that to clean power. And it would have been done in a way that was seamless and everything. So I'm still working on that, and hopefully we can build in it and get some of these solutions implemented in the interim. The other thing is it's all about controlling your media. So you may have seen some of the videos that we produced. And, I say produced, but we basically just shot them with our camera and edited them as best we could. And we pulled clips from the internet, and we really kind of ragtagged it, and so media is really crucial. Making detailed videos, and admittedly, we did not go deep enough into this. We did not do enough of this. Making detailed videos of your policies and really planning out, if there's an election coming up, I would recommend starting 2 years in advance, because really you can, the best way is you make your videos that detail every single policy solution that's locally tailored, that unifies people, that conservatives and progressives can come together. And then you take those videos, you take that online presence, and you go and knock on every single door in your city. And for smaller, there's 1 million people in Austin, so that would probably take 6,500 people knocking every weekend for 2 years almost. So, likely we'll start in 2020 for our next 2022 election. So, that's still the best way. And as we know, cooperation and just, people might have never heard the word Ubuntu before. They might not understand, terminology wise, some of the things, but they understand at a core level cooperation. And when you say the word contributionism, something clicks in people. I've noticed, especially in Texas and America, with this dynamic that we have in town. Texas is kind of it's known for being kind of a, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, kind of work hard, kind of state. And so people do have this sense of personal responsibility. And when you say contributionism, they get it immediately, that everybody works to earn stake in the collective abundance and success.
So, Travis, I'm glad that you brought that up, because, the word contributionism was actually the first name that this movement was given. I was talking about contributionism long before it was called the Ubuntu movement. It's only when I realized that contributionism really, in many ways, resembles the African philosophy of Ubuntu. And because I was living in South Africa, I thought, well, that's a great name to call it, because everybody understands the word Ubuntu. So it's really important for people in certain countries that have a feeling that the word Ubuntu would be alien or possibly maybe weird. I'm not precious about that, and we should not be precious about it. Contributionism is the philosophy. It's the Ubuntu movement, but we promote the philosophy of contributionism. So we talk about that again at many times into the future. But listen, I want to thank you for sharing all this with us. You're an absolute star, and you've become a hero to many people. And it's just going to keep growing, brother. You know what it's like. And thank you so much for always being there. And send my love to your beautiful wife. And I hope to see you soon. We'll be back in the USA at the end of May. And as you know, we'll be in Austin, Texas sometime in June, I believe, on a very extensive USA tour.
July 14th.
July 14th. There you go. Yeah. And I think let's close down this chat and invite Ron Higgins to join us. But before Ron starts, thanks very much, Travis, for your contribution.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we give Ron the floor, I just want to bring something to the table, which I forgot right up front. And that is that I had an interesting call from some bankers from Seattle who first contacted me about 5 years ago in 2013 in the USA. And they were really keen. One investment banker was really keen about the Ubuntu and contributionism philosophy, and he said he's working on a plan of action to help fund the movement and so forth. And he then contacted me again in about September last year, 2018, and said the time has come. It's 5 years down the road. Some of the investments they made are now coming full circle, and they're ready to start hopefully generating some funds for the Ubuntu movement. Well, we haven't seen any funds yet, but the other exciting thing that's come out of it, the last contact I've had, without mentioning any names, from this particular lawyer who's become an acquaintance, a friend, says that there's a great new buzz and excitement among a small group of his friends of investment bankers who are suddenly recognizing the one small town strategy as one of the, if not the most exciting investment opportunities into the future. Because investment bankers and people who invest money know how dangerous making investments can be in today's marketplace. And you can lose pretty much everything in a heartbeat. So these guys, and these are investment bankers, suddenly are seeing the brilliance and the security in investing in towns where people have a stake, where people work together and support and collaborate instead of competing against each other. And I smell something really exciting happening here. And you know, I've been talking about using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. That's really one of the foundations of this whole transitional phase. No oppositions, no violence, no conflict. Let's use the tools that are being used to destroy us and enslave us. Let's use that in our favor. Well, wouldn't that be an incredible twist when suddenly there's a domino effect among the global investment bankers that suddenly see the one small town strategy as the new exciting investment opportunity and actively go out and seek mayors to say, we want to come and turn your town around. We'll invest $10 or $20 million in your town. Here's a full package deal. We've worked everything out. And this is pretty much what these guys are now working on. So I'm waiting to hear back within the next few days or weeks, how this is progressing, because they're actually putting a whole banking investment spreadsheet package as like a fully fledged thing that they can just give to the mayor and say, here's our plan. We got $20 million. This is what we want to do to your town. And I look forward to see how this unfolds. So Ron, it's so good to see you. And I really look forward to hear what you have to share with us and the updates and news from our first frontier town with contributionism in North Frontenac, Ontario.
Thank you, Michael. I wish this was an all-day webinar. I have lots to say.
Yeah. No, but hold on, Ron. We will do that. We will do many more. And this is why I wanted to get this off the ground, because we need to do these webinars on a regular basis, at least once a month, and bring you and others on board so we constantly bring this positive feedback and learn from our experiences, which I'm sure you're going to share a lot with us. So go ahead, and we must do it again where we must give you a lot more time to share whatever you need to share.
Okay, so I think I'm going to back up a little, Michael. I'm going to go back June of this year. It'll be 2 years since you and I met and we talked about this. And Michael was absolutely right. When he explained it, it didn't take me long to get it. I think we had about a 1 hour, 2 hour meeting, and I left the parking lot driving home and already putting the plans in place in my head on how to get it done. So thanks for your contribution on writing that book and for meeting with me and telling me about it. It was very enlightening for me at that time. And to me, it's so simplistic that I just cannot understand how come the world has not got this started. And I still am baffled why this hasn't been done sooner and why people are so hesitant to do it. So I'm all in, as you know, and I'm a controversial mayor. I like to say it the way it is. If I have a belief in something, I'm going to forge ahead and do it, despite all the conflict and the issues that arise when you start to do something that's thinking outside the box, so to speak. So as you know, in November of 2017, we officially launched the One Small Town program in North Frontenac. And at that time, my council supported the resolution, but I have to say that the council does not support the program at this point in time. Even though they supported the resolution, it was for Ron Higgins, not Mayor Ron Higgins, to go out and explore the opportunities to get it done. So we have a resolution in place that says, yeah, let's see if this will work in the community. But everything up to this date, and I need to stress this quite clearly, this is a Ron Higgins program, and I'm using my position as mayor to get some certain things done and to get the word out there. But it's mostly Ron Higgins running it right now. So that sort of led me to believe, and when I talk to other mayors around the world, the ones I've been talking to are aware of this movement, and they approach me about how they can get it done in their small town and how they should run their campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. And I would have to say that you don't have to be a mayor to get this done. What you need is a good leader within your community, and it can be a millennial, can be an elder. Whoever has a passion to drive this program, they could get it done without being a mayor. We don't have to wait for mayors or governments to be in place to get this done. Just get a nucleus of a good, solid team in place, understand the bylaws, the official plans, and things within the community, and you can get it done. I'm going to be putting together, I'm actually working on it now, a template for the rest of the world to follow on how you can implement this program. You don't have to be a mayor. You don't have to be elite in the society. All you have to do is understand what are the needs within your community. What is it your community really needs? And I'll give you an example. In our community, when I started to launch this, as Travis had pointed out, I got into a lot of conflict with people because of they would look up things with Michael Tellinger's, just exactly what Travis had said, Michael. And they would bring up all this misinformation and stuff that's out there on the internet that never goes away, and use that against you in running your program. So in most cases, when people are object to things, they always take things that are out there in the world that are negative, and they use that to try and push back against what you're trying to do. They never look at all the positive information out there. So on our side, we look at the positive information and we say, here's all the good things about it, and we don't talk about the negative things. So I talk about both when I'm doing it and try to strike a balance within the community to try and get it done. And so with the Ubuntu contributionism, I learned that I have to stop using the word Ubuntu if I'm going to get anywhere to increase the level of commitment within the community. But I will never waver from using the word contributionism because it's a very powerful name. It has, I spent a lot of time just looking up that word and looking at different interpretations of it. But contributionism to me is how we built North America. And what I mean by that is that in North America, there was a lot of immigration over into the North America, and they started to build towns and cities and whatever. And how did they do that? Well, they used volunteers. We all got together and we built a hotel. We built it for a place to stay. We built a bar so you could place to drink, a medical center, the doctor's room, the saloon, the livery stable. We all got together and built these things and had potluck dinners, everything. And then we all shared all the rewards out of all that stuff that we contributed to or volunteering to do. So to me, basically, contributionism is going back on how you really strike up a town and how you live together in a communal environment. So I'll leave it at that. And so from the North Frontenac perspective, I said, okay, what is it North Frontenac needs? And what do the people in here want, whether they believe in the program or not? What is it they really want? Well, they want more businesses in the area. There's a lot to offer here, and the business here is suffering, but we have no places for people to stay. So there's number one priority. We need accommodations for people to stay. Healthcare, we don't have a lot of healthcare in the community, so they have to travel outside, and the seniors can't afford to transport themselves, can't afford the medications. So we need a more holistic, health and care facility within North Frontenac. So I'll leave it at that as two examples because I don't want to take up too time here. But I know today there's a meeting in Plevna, which is within North Frontenac, and the core team for Ubuntu Canada and within the local environment within North Frontenac are meeting today to discuss how we're going to go forward. And they're listening to this webcast as we speak. So in that community, we have a health and wellness center that Jocelyn is going to be setting up that's going to help address the health concerns that we have there and looking at more preventive ways of healthcare versus reactive. And we're using a contributionism model where practitioners will come in and contribute a certain amount of time to provide their health care. And in return, they can stay at the house and enjoy fishing, hiking, camping, whatever it is they want to do in return for their services. So that's just a small example. And I'm going to run through, so we have a number of projects that we're running through. And the reason I'm going to run through these projects is unknown to me. When I announced the One Small Town program back in November 17th, I was being followed by an organization here in Canada that's a sovereign entity. I had no clue they were following me, but I guess about 6 months ago, they approached me and they would like to provide a monetary donation to North Frontenac to kick off our projects. And they said we could potentially offer up to about $8 million to help you get your project started. And so I worked with all the project leaders, and I'll run through these projects in a minute, to come up with work plans and business cases on the projects so that this entity that was going to provide donations has something that they can go to the bankers with and provide it. One item we looked at, and Michael, you alluded to earlier, was electrical generation. In Canada, well, in Ontario specifically, it's going to be a long time before I can get that done. So I put that way in the back burner because of a number of issues. But one of the projects we're putting in funding for is for our dark sky preserve. We have a huge telescope that is being donated to North Frontenac municipality, but we need to build a shelter for it, which is going to cost $50,000, and we just don't have the money in our budget to do that. So I've submitted that in as one of the projects that we wanted to do. And this telescope is a powerful telescope. It's been responsible for identifying at least 3 comets that I'm aware of. And when I launched this program, what I neglected to say when I launched this, is there was a lot of people within the community that came out that I had no idea existed within our community that really wanted this type of lifestyle, contributionism, and going forward. And that was the biggest surprise to me, that people within my community that were staying silent because of the controversy if they come out and say something like that. But once I launched it and started the program, they started coming out of the woodwork. So we have a number of local residents and business that want to get onto contributionism, as well as people outside the community that are going to come and move here and help me get this going. So the other project is a local business, and they're calling their project Balance. And Balance is an experience-oriented destination. And some things they're looking at is putting together one year-round standalone greenhouse utilizing a mixture of hydroponics and aquaponics. Also want to put in aquaponics with an enclosed environment, such as a basement equipped with LED lights and a restaurant and training facility. They also want to put in accommodations using new state-of-the-art architecture like pods, domes, those kind of things. And they also going to put into an off-grid living facility for the purpose of cost analysis. Solar panels are being utilized at this point in time, and potentially small wind turbines. So what they're going to be doing is addressing our accommodation needs that we have here in Frontenac. It'll be affordable housing. It'll be self-sustaining and environmentally friendly at the same time. Another project that we want to set up, and this will help with our tourist attraction and getting the word out on here on what contributionism is all about, is called the Guided Backcountry Camping and Wilderness Survival Program. And in North Frontenac, we have hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of acres of crown land that we can go out and do these things in, where there's nobody living. It's just a wilderness where you can go out and implement this type of program. And the other one that I'm quite excited about is called Precious Plastics. And that's recycling and reusing plastic from our landfill. And that's another project that's going to not only save the municipality money, but avoid plastics going into our landfill. And basically what it's going to be doing is shredding the plastic goes into the landfill, putting it through a 3D printer and printing out new plastic products. So it's reusing it. Boat covers, for example, nobody will take those. So we can take boat covers that are taken off boats that are stored during the winter here in Canada and make tarps for other uses and things like that. So that avoids the plastics going out, and we're reusing that material. The other one is Talking Trees, is talking about putting in an earthship in, which is going to be a facility where they're going to have some horseback riding. There'll be a mixture of earthships, different sizes of earthships for different aspects, and people will be able to contribute, help build those. They're basically going to provide a small-scale environment of what an earthship community would look like. So it'll be educational, as well as providing accommodations for people coming here, and can also be used as a training for building the airship community, which I'm going to talk about now. We're looking at putting together an earthship community. It doesn't have to be earthships. It can be, normal style houses, but has to conform to the earthship model, where you have to be able to harvest your own water, grow your own food, recycle your water, things like that. And then the last project we're doing is, since Michael and I talked the last time, I've established a relationship with our local Aboriginal community, and they're involved in the contributionism model as well. They're going to be building a facility in North Frontenac where there'll be a healing center, sweat lodges, training center for trapping courses, hand tiding, medicines, and forestry training. So those are the key projects that we've agreed to start on to get the contributionism one small town going. And since starting this, I got a lot of questions. Why are you calling it a small town when you don't even have a town in your area? Well, that makes total sense. And I was getting quite a few comments about that. And that's the reason I'm calling it one small township now. So it's not just a town, it takes in our whole township. It's not one town within the community. This is going to be a municipal-wide program once it gets up and running. So with that, Michael, if you have any questions, or I can carry on. One other item I wanted to make a point of is that, and the project teams don't know this at this point in time, but I've decided to go to a municipal not-for-profit cooperation or a co-op to run these programs. And the reason I'm doing that is that the funding agency, we need to control the funds, but not put it into the municipal coffers, if you will. It needs to stay outside the municipality itself, or the township, or the government coffers. So we're going to be setting it up that way, so that the allocation and the storing and the allocations of the funds to kick this project will be controlled by the co-op themselves, to make sure that the money that's being donated, or any other money that we have coming in, is allocated as based on the work plans that I just described previously. So if you have any questions, Michael, I can take them on.
Yeah, Ron, thank you so much. What I'd like to, I hope that you feel that you could share enough at least, but what I'd like to suggest that you and I have a separate chat, and we actually record that and run with that chat for as long as we need to, so we can then put that out there on the internet for others to share, to view and get inspiration from. As you said, there's so much more that you can talk about, and especially from your experiences where you bumped your head, or some of the hurdles and the challenges that you've experienced that others can learn from without having to go through it themselves. So this is fantastic, and I'm really happy to hear about the the Aboriginal people or the Native Canadians that you're working with. That's really exciting. I would like to speak to you as well after this about some new health products that I've just recently been exposed to that could be utilized very effectively in hospitals that I think will probably be, you'd be very excited about. Yeah, so let's catch up when you can in a separate interview that we can, or discussion that we can film and record for others to enjoy and extract more information out of.
Yeah, and so like I said, I'm going to have a template that I'll be able to share with you and everybody else on this call or anybody involved in the program, sort of a model that I can put together. So very basically, you do an assessment of what your needs are, address those assessments, and implement 3 simple steps. Yeah. But I believe that's the best way to go based on the experience that I've had, is make sure you analyze how you can fit this into, what was the word I had here, is to, I put this down. What you have to do is merge the cultures together. So this is a new culture being introduced. And you just can't throw in a new culture because you're going to get a lot of resistance. So I guess the cultures I'm talking about is the resource-based economy, merging in with capitalism, moving and shifting that into the resource-based model versus a capitalistic model.
Yeah, that's I love that expression. Yeah, excellent, Ron. Thank you so much. If there's anything else you want to share, you feel you've said enough.
Yeah, no, I just want to say that the team here that's helping me out has been doing a lot of work. We're all anxious to get going. We're all relying on this donation coming in. I'm hoping it comes in because I'm really excited about it. And I have to say at the same time, I'm working on an investor model. You were talking about banker investments. The model that we're looking at with the investors around our area is a group of investors working together as an investor forum. And what that does, Michael, is reduces the risk for each individual investor so that investors pool their money together in a forum, and anybody who wants any investment money would provide their business case to the investor forum, and they would make a decision and support it, yes or no, and then they would pool all their individual resources into one, which reduces the individual risk. And the model I'm looking at is a 33% return based on your 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 model. So if I invested 100,000 into a project, I would get my investment back plus 33%, and that becomes very, very attractive for an investor.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's really exciting news, and I'm looking forward to seeing that model in a way that we can share it with everybody else. So basically, between you and Travis, we've got some exciting new ground that we can share with people and information. What's happening here in South Africa, like I mentioned, is absolutely taking me by surprise. I'm supposed to go and address about 50,000 people on the 25th of January. This is how these things are unfolding now. So yeah, completely unexpected, unprepared for this, but we just roll with the punches. So Ron, thank you so much. And I'm sure there'll be people that'll have some questions for you. And I look forward to catching up with you on a separate forum and getting that out to everybody.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael, for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. All right. So now let's move on to Rebecca to give us some feedback. If Rebecca, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I didn't know I could do it myself.
Hi, Rebecca. This is Rebecca Gretz. For those who don't know Rebecca is our national coordinator for the USA, doing a splendid job and has just been an absolute foundation and the rock in the USA. Thank you again for everything. And so what's the latest from your side?
Well, pretty exciting stuff. I just had a call with the regional coordinators this last Sunday, and there are things happening. Hey, Travis, there are things happening quietly sort of all around the country. I just want to put out there in general, if you are somebody in the United States who's interested in representing Ubuntu, please contact me. I put my contact information further up along with other regional coordinators. We are, of course, always looking for more people who want to engage at a more significant level and increasing awareness about Ubuntu contributionism. And so locally here in Colorado, I'm in Colorado, and the Walsenburg project is moving forward. We recently partnered with District 1 in Walsenburg, which is a nonprofit. We purchased a school down there, built in 18-something, has lots of construction needs, and the roof has been leaking, water just pouring down in, but we've got most of those patched up, and an enormous amount of well, actually, to go along with water pouring down from the top, there was shit coming up from the bottom. It just has been really a great experience in how to well, what happens when you just like jump in head first into a project, and which is what we're doing, and it's actually coming along really well. We have lots of people contacting us and lots of people coming down to Walsenburg and contributing. There are now 4 or 5 or 6 people who are actually living there in the building and doing the construction work. We bought that building specifically for housing to support the food growing that is happening down there, to support a restaurant called called One Table. One stands for Organizing New Economy, and the whole idea is right in alignment with Ubuntu. So our collaboration with District 1 is around food initially. Also down in the Walsenburg area, actually closer to Trinidad, there's another gentleman, Glenn Mears, who has 35 acres, who is just chomping at the bit to be included in having his land as part of the food growing process. And so he just got the okay from the commissioners in Los Animas County to create basically a space for people with camping and campers and RVs to come and stay on his land and grow the food that we can then send back up to Walsenburg. So those things are starting to really percolate. It seems like 2019 is a completely different year than 2018. 2018 was just like slogging through mud. It was incredibly difficult. And 2019, even a little bit before, but the energy of 2019 is just about expanding and collaborating and making the changes that we all are so eager to have. So again, the Kara Shepherd in Washington has been, again, because of 2018, things have been really, really quiet with the national coordinators. However, each one of them is still doing their quiet work. Kara Shepherd in Washington has been working very diligently with nonviolent communication or compassionate communication, which I feel is going to be incredibly important when we get to the place where we're actually building communities and one small towns. Because one of the things that we all know is that we ourselves are our biggest challenge, being able to communicate with each other and work through the disagreements and the ideas of what's the right way, what's the wrong way, and all of that stuff. So I'm very excited about her practice and abilities in the nonviolent communication part. We're also partnering with Critical Thinkers, who is also partnering with Native Americans. Critical Thinkers is run by a veterans group, and so engaging the veterans and engaging the Native Americans is one of our key focuses here in the United States, and very exciting stuff happening there too. I don't want to take too much time because I know that there's more that you want to say, Michael, but just know that there's lots happening. There's more that can happen if we have more bodies and more money, always more money, but but just know that we are working on things. Ron, I'm really, really excited about the information that you plan to send out about sort of the details of your template of how to begin a community. I know that is something that I get asked a lot, and I'm like, well, it hasn't been done yet. So there isn't really a template that is detailed enough to give you like, do this, do this, do this. It's, you have to use some of that intuition that Michael talks about of what is needed in this particular community, in this particular project. So anyway, I don't want to keep
Rebecca, listen, you can speak as long as you want. This is a small group, so I'm sure the Q&A is not going to be that long. So I'd rather get interesting feedback from you as well. But I wanted to ask Ron, while you're still there, Ron, your experience and your interaction with the Native Canadians and the First Nations people. How do you see their role in transitioning or supporting the whole contributionist model? And do you feel that they from my perspective, they should have a really important role and a stake in this, because ultimately it's coming back to that kind of lifestyle that First Nations people or Native people of the world have experienced for so long. What is your take on that and your interaction with them?
So my take is they were already there. And in Canada, there's quite a, what's the right word? Not a lot of recognition of the Aboriginal community and what they can offer, and a lot of people just understand them as being rebelistic, if I can use that as a word, if it even is a word, when actually what they're been focused on for their generations is something that we're trying to implement now. So I see the value that they can add as being tremendous value, and that's why we connected so easily. Was based on what I'm doing here in the area, sort of conforms with what they're already doing: natural healing, food production, protecting the environment. Everybody prospers together. Nobody is above anybody else. That kind of attitude is already existing. So we got a lot to learn from them, and I see their role as being a strong mentor in helping us get this implemented versus the other way around.
That's fantastic. And I want to congratulating you. You just graduated to being a linguist by inventing a new word, rebelistic. Did that go into the English dictionary? I like it. So, all right, Ron, thank you for that. I've always obviously felt for a long time that the Native people, whether they're Native Americans or Canadians, I'm not even sure what the right description is that they like to use for themselves. But I've always felt that this is something that should be taken up by the people that hold that title, because it is so obvious that this is something that they could really benefit from very, very quickly, and probably succeed in a lot quicker than the European settlers that come from a slightly different mindset. Although there might be fourth or fifth or sixth generation, there's still, the Western world has a different and a different kind of thinking that's driven into us by the capitalist model and the political arena that we've grown up in. And I think that the Native and the tribal people are a lot easier. It's a lot easier for them to embrace this kind of contributionist model. Rebecca, I would like to come back and find out if you have any comments on some of the Native Americans that you've been dealing with, or that have come into contact with you. Have you have any feedback on that front?
Not so far. I know that they, as Ron says, they already are, from their perspective, they're already doing it. They don't call it contributionism, they just call it life. It's just how they engage with each other, and they're very focused on the well-being of everyone in their tribe. I think that what we have to offer is the expansion of the concept of tribe to include everybody on the planet and the planet herself. So that really is, I think we have a lot to learn from them. And so my experience is approaching them really carefully, not from the perspective of we have something to offer you, but more how can we collaborate with you because of your experience over the centuries and millennia, really. So that is sort of how we're approaching them, is much more from a collaboration and expanding the wellness of humans and the planet, rather than bringing them something that they might not know about, because they do know about it.
Yeah, look, Sorry, is that Travis?
Sorry, go ahead. I just had one thing to add, but please go ahead.
No, go ahead, Travis. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, I just wanted to add one note there. One of actually my cherished moments this year was I actually took a trip up to what is known as Protecting Mother Earth Conference, and it's held by the Indigenous Environmental Network and the Indigenous Climate Alliance. And this past year was held on the Nisqually Reservation in Washington State. And really, I just listened a lot, sat with the different elders from all around the world. And one of the things that is really urgent right now is that the colonization is increasing at the moment, and the land grabs, the invasion with the different pipelines, and the just all the multinational corporations, essentially right now that they're still under attack. And so one thing, I think if there's any way that we can help as Europeans, so to speak, in these states is to figure out how to build political power that is going to protect First Nations people and Indigenous people. And so, and if anybody is not aware of those different organizations, Indigenous Environmental Network and Indigenous Climate Action, and there's many others that are associated with them, please look them up, and I would recommend attending the Protecting Mother Earth conference in 2019, which will probably be sometime in the summer, and I'm not sure where it will be held this year. Although I think it was a great opportunity, and actually the energy question came up because a lot of the treaties that were signed specifically in America, and I know actually in Canada right now there's another pipeline fight that's happening, and there's people being arrested. There's also thousands of women, young women, being disappearing, and so there's still a lot of injustice that is happening. And one of the main things is the treaties have established a scenario where a lot of the different reservations and tribes are dependent on the Bureau of Indian Affairs to supply their food, their medicine, their water, everything. And right now the federal government in the United States is shut down, and therefore their resources are cut off. And so I really think that the best thing that we can do is forge those relationships and bring in new energy technologies to help them become resilient, in the long run. That's going to take building those relationships and building trust, because there is still a lack of trust. So when I went, I did not say I'm a mayoral candidate. I basically, it was almost like a silent retreat for me because I was just there to listen, to observe, to soak up wisdom and knowledge. And I hope to attend again. And so anyway, I think just if there's anybody in the specifically in North America, and I know in Brazil right now, there's a basically that's all I wanted to add is that there are things we can do, which is just try to lobby to protect their land and resources.
Look, Travis, thanks for that contribution. It's really important. Let's just be very clear about this. I don't think anyone has any doubts about the fact that the situation is not getting easier. And I think for the tribal communities, the First Nations people, the Native Canadians, Americans, whatever the correct terminology is, those groups of people are not gonna. It's not gonna get any easier for them. That's just the way it is. So just like we had to learn, trying to come up with when I say we, when I say those, me and those that were developing and evolving this contributionism model, when we had to figure out a way of non-violence, non-resistance, no conflict, no violence, opposition, or conflict philosophy. And when the penny dropped that we have to use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation, that's exactly what I believe the First Nations people and the Native Americans and Canadians and Native people all over the world should be using to really help benefit themselves. Those groups of people who, as you mentioned, and I felt it as well when I engaged with some of these Native American, Native Canadian elders, there's a lot of distrust. A huge amount of distrust. They just do not trust the Westerners and the white people because they've been lied to and abused over and over and over again. And so I can understand it. If I was a tribal American or anywhere else in the world, I wouldn't trust the white face ever. So it's really up to us to, while we're sharing this philosophy with our own groups and our own meetup groups and the Ubuntu movement and in all the different countries and setting up the one small gathering and the one small, the meetup groups where we talk about how to, how to help influence the mayor and so forth. I think that same approach can be used for the tribal communities, the Native Canadians and Americans, and any other country where there are Native people that want to secure a future of prosperity and abundance without that concept of violence, opposition, and conflict, because that's just going to get us nowhere. And by turning your community into a prosperous community of abundance and prosperity, that's when you start succeeding on every level. And you can do things that we cannot do now, or that those communities cannot do now, because all these communities have one thing in common. They have no money. We all live in poverty. So once the community becomes a great success story, and the investment bankers come in and they start putting the money in, like Ron said, they're waiting for these investors to come in, and those doors start to open. When our investment bankers in Seattle actually start saying, right, we've got $100 million that we want to go and find 5 or 6 towns to go and invest this money in, things are going to start change. And I think these the communities of Native people around the world can play an incredibly powerful role in speeding up the transition and setting up the one small town contributionist communities, because they're already living it, as you all suggested and you said. We all know that. We're trying to go back to that. But they have to use the current system. They cannot fight the current system. Otherwise, they're constantly going to be shut down and prevented from getting anywhere. That's how I see it. And I trust there'll be various takes on this and various approaches to this. So let's just keep doing what we're doing. I wanted to find out if there are any questions, unless Travis or Ron or Rebecca, if Rebecca is still there, have anything else to add. I'd like to just open the floor to people that might have some questions about what we're doing, what the plans are, and let's just answer some of those questions. Ron, is there anything else you wanted to say?
Sorry, there I'm unmuted. Yeah, I just want to sort of reiterate again, and the reason why I want to reiterate it again is the model for the one small town is a mayor. And as Travis pointed out, even if he was elected with mayor, he would still have to deal with a council of non-believers, I would think, unless you get other ones in there. So just getting in as a mayor doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to work. And I've had a lot of difficulty with my council on this project, this program, and that's not going to change until something is proven on the ground to show how this model works. Right now, it's a theory, and we're transforming this theory into practicality. And once that's done, and as you pointed out, Michael, as soon as the evidence is seen, it's not going to take long at all for this to start to evolve into other communities and grow and prosper. And that's why I've said there's a questions on there where if you click the Q&A at the bottom of this webinar, there's some questions on there. When can we have a template? When will it be ready? And I'm typing 5 months, and I said, well, people want it now. But I want to take my time and provide a work through to finish off that template. But it's going to provide some guidance and some advice on why that template should be working the way it is. So to reiterate it again, I think that the one small town can be a lot, what's the right word, can be done a lot quicker and a lot more efficiency if it's outside of a government bureaucracy. Even though I'm a mayor and there's projects going, I would have hoped to have started this a year ago. But with all the politics and the bureaucracy at every level of government in Canada, it takes a long time to get things done. Whereas if you're doing it, I probably have this up and running by now, by working within the constraints of the government philosophy. And that's what I was talking about before, Michael, is the merging of cultures. And I said capitalistic versus contributionism, but there's also that municipal, provincial, and federal politics that come into play in here. So all of those cultures and theories is going to take a long time to get through. But as you pointed out, you get to a state of abundance. And in my head right now, if I can get started these projects this spring, I figure within about 8 to 10 years time frame, we'll be in a position where we'll have all of our projects done, we'll have an excess amount of money in place. And that's when we can start paying for infrastructure within the community, reducing taxes and making life a lot more affordable for everybody. And also sharing the wealth with the rest of the regions around and helping spread that out. And it follows the model you're talking about. And what I'm talking about is having a template in place to implement that theoretical model that you wrote about.
Thanks very much, Ron. I look forward to catching up with you in a private conversation as well. Okay. So on that note, anything else? Is Rebecca still with us? If Rebecca wants to add something before we start going to questions? No? I think Rebecca has left us. Okay, so I'm going to just go through these questions here. So first one, cool, hello. Okay, Ubuntu Ekna, thank you. She's busy translating the Ubuntu book into Spanish. I must say the Spanish translation has been one of the challenging translations. I'm not even going to go into details what has happened there, but to tell you that it's now been translated twice into Spanish, but somehow I cannot actually get the document from the people that translated it. So Ekna, I hope that you're making steady and good progress so we eventually get this book out in Spanish. Chris Chadwick, Once Full Gathering. Okay, Chris is just making a statement. Thank you, Chris. I know have trouble getting, this is from Michael. You have trouble getting people to contribute to the Ubuntu office. They want to contribute money for the local initiatives. What's the argument for donating to the initial Ubuntu office? Well, the argument is very simple. Of course, we need money for local initiatives, but the local initiatives can probably be supported by people making contributions directly to the actual initiative. On the international office, if I don't have funding to run the office, then I basically can't do it. It's that simple. I've got to fly around and meet people and travel around and so far I've been funding that mostly myself for many, many years with a lot of very generous donations from people. And it's like any group or any organization, unless the central office or the head office is funded, then it's very difficult to keep the rest of the movement going. But I'm conceding that if we cannot find substantial funding for my office and for the Ubuntu office here, the international office that manages many countries and many people, keep in mind that I have to answer emails from people, let's say just 200 emails a day, which is a normal average statistic. If I have to spend 3 minutes per email, that's it. That's all I will spend doing is answering emails all day, every day. I can't even do anything else. And so that is obviously not a workable solution. And I can't do that. I still have to work to survive myself. So unless we have funding to run the Ubuntu office and we have that pays the bills, pays the electricity, pays the equipment and the transport and the petrol, for me to be able to go to the meetings and meet with all the people from all the different countries and the energy providers and et cetera, then I'm going to have to just pull right back and just let this movement run its own course and do its own thing. And that is probably coming a lot sooner than later, because right now there is very little money to go around and actually pay for my time. Every time I have to take time off and drive somewhere, you know what it's like. If you have to drive for 5 hours there and 5 hours back, the accommodation and all the things that you have to spend from your own, this is not a workable model. I hope that answers your question. Kerry is asking, Neil, are coordinators of these webinars? I heard about this via email. If you guys can make a Facebook group for these webinars, a poster, or we can share. A lot of people I'd share this with. Thank you, Kerry. We're doing the best we can. We have a Facebook group. It's called Ubuntu Members Worldwide. That is our major Facebook group. So myself and Neil, we post this on the official Ubuntu websites and the Ubuntu Facebook groups. And for people that aren't there, then unfortunately we can't reach them individually. Again, that becomes just a bridge too far. So please sign up and become, join the Ubuntu Members Worldwide Facebook group, and then you can share the events from there. And Ubuntu Planet, obviously. Join the Ubuntu Planet and the Ubuntu Members Worldwide. Make sure that you're on there, and then you'll get all the notices on your Facebook page all the time. Then another question, we can also do templates, orders working, ground zero, and Yucatan. Excellent. Back into the circle, collect, move ahead. Okay. Kerry, thank you very much. Just keep sharing your ideas and interacting with people. And this thing just keeps unfolding and growing. And the one thing I can say is that in this movement, I have met the most incredible and the most beautiful people in the world. There's no doubt about that. And that's what really keeps me motivated and going. The most generous, kind, spiritually conscious, beautiful people. And that's really what keeps me motivated and going. I've also met some of the most arrogant and unbelievably stubborn individuals that don't last too long. They then go and find something else and someone else to shout at once they've had enough shouting at me. And Michael Knight, Michael, can you add Vermont to your US tour this year? Yes, Michael, let me speak to Neil and see what we can do. It looks like we're going to possibly be canceling Chicago and moving to another venue in New York State, just north of New York City, about an hour north of New York City. We're working on that, but I'll talk to Neil and see what we can do about that. Unfortunately, we've already booked most of the venues, and let's see how we can handle this. But it'll be nice to see you in any case. I'm sure I'll see you in the USA this time around. Arthur Cheadle? Arthur Cheadle? How many people in the Ubuntu movement, and why can't we get more contributions from them? That is the never-ending question. We have, at this stage, probably about 35 to 40,000 people signed up. They're in one or two databases and growing. But when you add the Facebook pages and you add some of the other platforms, we probably have well over 100,000 people in the Ubuntu movement. So why are we struggling to get funding? I have no idea. I suppose that people see the Ubuntu movement as incorrectly as we have to do everything without money. And this is why I've been so I guess, firm is the wrong word. I've had to remind people that we have to use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. And money is the number one tool of enslavement. So without money, we're going to achieve very little. Every time we need to do something, we're going to require money, because you can only motivate people for so long. And I know that from my own personal experience here in our town of Waterval-Boven. When we had a lot more funding several years ago, especially when we were running in politics, for some reason, when the Ubuntu movement was a political party, we had much more funding and we ran a lot of projects. The moment we pulled out of politics, the funding just dried up. So that is a very interesting thing. And I've just realized that recently. So when we were running a lot of the projects in our town here to just motivate the people and get them see the benefits of working together and cooperating and collaborating, everything worked fine as long as the money kept funding the projects. The moment the money dried up and I could no longer pay for running the projects, whether it's the soup kitchen or the gardens or the sports facilities and so forth, the moment the money dried up, all the projects just dried up with the money. And that was a very clear indication how difficult some of these implementations are going to be. Without money, it's going to be very, very difficult. And especially when you're talking about what are referred to as third world countries. Because in the West, as whatever you want to call it, in Europe and in North America, where people have a slightly better lifestyle. I'm not saying that everyone is well off. I know that there are a lot of people that are struggling and suffering in the Americas as well, especially in North America, I mean. But when you look at third world countries, there's a very different kind of survival thing that's happening. People really have to fight for survival on a daily basis. Where am I going to get enough money to put bread on the table today? So when you start a project and the project isn't successful and the people don't get a benefit really quickly from that project, they lose their enthusiasm for that project very quickly. And that's what I realized. So there needs to be a different kind of mechanism that works within the One Small Town strategy, especially, and we get out of the One Small Town strategy, and especially once we have our own source of electricity, which changes the game completely. But again, that's for another discussion. How and why we're not getting funding now, I don't know. So just a reminder for anybody that watches this, go into the Ubuntu website, sign up as an active member to help us keep running the office, so we can actually put a PA and a secretary in place that we can pay, that can lead a normal life, can actually answer the emails and deal with the admin, because I can no longer deal with the admin. It's just simply impossible. Just imagine if just dealing with 12 countries or 20 countries, just that, and then all the activities and all the emails, just that alone is a job for about 3 people. You need an IT person as well, a full-time IT person. Luckily, we now have really good IT team that is working on providing the solution that will make the admin at the office, the head office, a lot easier, because most of it will happen on the website where it'll be a self-organizing structure. That'll be a lot easier for people to come online onto the website, sign up, and start interacting with people in their own area. And I believe that's when we can start to grow very quickly into large numbers around the world. And I believe the One Small gathering, the weekly meetup groups, the regular meetup groups are going to be the places where the Ubuntu movement is going to grow really rapidly, because that's where a lot of excitement and excitement happens, when people meet each other, meeting people from their own community or their town that they've sort of known for many years, but never known that they actually share the same philosophies and the same ideologies about life and the future. So that's very exciting. Next one, Chris, the philosophy model of contributionism should be in the body so it can be more fully defined and explained as we meet up, as what the meetup is all about. Absolutely. Again, there's supposed to be a whole range of material for the meetup groups, and it's just a matter of time that right now I just don't have the luxury to take the time to write that material and share it with everybody. It's in various forms and phases, but I guess it'll happen. It'll happen. Veronica Haupt, Michael, the power plant that will be built in South Africa, I presume that is alternative safe green energy. Yes, absolutely. This is brand new technology. I don't want to mention any names right now. Ron knows who I'm talking about. And this is a really, really big deal. I was completely taken by surprise that we have come this far, and we are basically on the verge of pulling this off. It's just a matter of signing the contract. It's taken us 6 months to negotiate this, and we're now at a point where the contract is about to be signed. So I'm extremely excited, extremely optimistic, because I believe this, just the announcement, once the contract is signed and we announce this, and we release this to the media as a press release, that will mean a huge emotional boost for South Africans and the whole of the Southern African continent, because that's going to be the first of a chain reaction regarding alternative energy for Southern Africa and probably other parts of the world, because that's when the mayors and investors and who knows, people around the world will see that, wow, if they can do it in South Africa, we can do it in our community. And I believe it's really going to be a real catalyst to get the contributionism model moving quite rapidly. Arthur Chiadle, since it's so important to have a small town as a template, why don't we put all the Ubuntu resources into one small town, make it happen? That's exactly what we're trying to do, Arthur. Exactly that. And what our hope is going to happen is that the people at the meetup groups, the one small gathering meetup groups, will put their plan of action together to approach the mayor, give the mayor the letter. The letter exists, that you can get off the website already. And if the mayor doesn't respond to that letter, then find the appropriate person. And I know that Ron is saying you don't need a mayor to do that. You can do it on your own. Yes, I agree with Ron. He's absolutely right. But I still do believe that if you do find a mayor that is this kind of headspace, and the council that is then around that mayor, then I believe we have a really strong case to make this thing happen far more successfully. And as the consciousness grows, and not just the mayors, but the council members become more confident and start to see this vision, and it's happening. It's happening already. It's just we might not even be aware of it. So that's exactly what we're doing. And the one small gathering is the breeding place for this to happen. So we need to get as many meetup groups happening every week. Can you imagine if we have, say, 100 meetup groups in 100 countries around the world with 100 people? What is that? That's 10,000 people a week meeting up. That's, or more, 100,000 people a week. Who can do the maths? It's 100,000 people a week meeting up. That's a very large number of people, and that can grow. Ron, what have you got to add?
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Michael is, just to add to what Michael's saying, and I alluded to it earlier, is setting up the not-for-profit co-op within North Frontenac is there to sustain the project, or to get the projects up and running, sustain the projects, start new projects. And once we get to a certain point within North Frontenac, we're going to be able to be in a position where we're self-sustainable for our projects, and we can start helping out our neighboring communities with some monetary donations through the co-op, and that's how you would build it out. So once you get all these satellite co-ops feeding into one major co-op, then it becomes a very powerful tool as we get into this going down the road. That's why I'm feeling a lot of pressure to get this one small town first project started, so we have something to build from.
Awesome. Thanks very much for reminding us, Ron. Right. Michael asked if anyone contact with the transition movement. Yes, I have a contact with them. Just so that you know, I've had contact with pretty much every single movement that you can think of out there in the world, and thousands of emails from people. Why did you team up with this group? And why did you team up with that group? And why did you start working with these guys? And why did you collaborate with those guys? And can you just imagine if I had to collaborate just the admin of interacting and collaborating with all these people? This is a nightmare, an administrative and implementationary nightmare. We can't do that. We've got to, our philosophy is very simple. We do what we do. We believe that the one small town model is a solution for the world. And I believe, certainly, firmly in my heart, that the one small town plan of action has every solution for every problem we face as the human race built into it, because the solutions come from the people of that community, not from me or any other leader at some office tower, some office in some high tower somewhere that's trying to tell us what to do. The solutions come from the people in that community who know what they want and what's best for them. And this is why they will be able to solve all their problems. And therefore, I can say with absolute confidence that every problem, for every human problem we have a solution built into the one small town model. we support other movements. We send them love. We send them encouragement, and we hope and wish they become successful in what they do. And they play an important role in raising the consciousness and shifting people, waking them up, sharing knowledge and information with them. And we doing exactly the same. The only difference is that we actually have a plan of action that we're implementing. So we trust, and I believe and I trust that people in the other movements view us as the Ubuntu movement the same way, that they support us, and they will support us with whatever support they can muster up to support our initiatives in implementing the One Small Town, since that seems to be the only plan at this stage that is feasible and implementable. So we need to support each other. It doesn't mean we have to all merge and work together, because that is just never going to happen. It's an implementationary nightmare. Let's move on to Ekna. Ekna is on page 34 with a translation into the Spanish book. Thank you very much, Ekna. Keep it up. Arthur, why don't we have one big coup to finance the best projects? Co-op, is it co-op that you're talking about? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, yeah. Arthur. Again, these things you need to work out at your local One Small Gathering, at your local meetup groups. These things can be figured out at the local meetup groups and find out, decide, as Ron said, what is best for your community, and then set up the co-op and fund that and start those projects within your communities if you feel that's the right way to go. There might be some towns that the mayor is such a dynamic person and such an influential person that all of these things will become a lot easier and a lot more possible if they are driven by the mayor. Especially when the mayor is supported by the council, which, as Ron Higgins said, he isn't getting the support from the council, so it's become a lot more difficult for him than I believe is possible out there. So we just got to keep pushing and looking for those mayors and the councils that will stand together and work together with the people. Let's carry on. Ron and Michael, I said in the general chat, we'll put it here, but in light of the talk of mayoralty in Canada, the oath to elected folks on 3 levels of government have to take it to the Queen, not the people of Canada. For me, using my power and word to make such an oath is outside of what I'm willing to do. But that's okay, Patty. So obviously you don't need to run for mayor, but there'll be somebody that will. And in the meetup groups, we need to find the people that are willing to run and are the right kind of person, the right personality, the right character, the right spokesperson, and so forth. And Ron has obviously some very wise words to share with us on this note.
I'm not sure about wise words, but this has been an issue in the Ontario election, where an Aboriginal mayor was elected and refused to give the oath of office just for that reason. So Elections Ontario, and I believe Elections Canada as well, are reviewing the oath of office to accommodate the Aboriginal perspective on elections. Wow,
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's really, really important information. That. So once again, we need to find the right people for the right job, right? And to find the right candidate to run for mayor is exactly that. Find the right person for that job. And Travis already alluded to that earlier. We've got to find the right people. Not everyone's going to be the right candidate to run for mayor. And then for Michael, thank you, Michael. I will share the answer. John, MTP, I don't have much money to donate, but are there any projects near or in Colorado I could volunteer in my time? Yes, John, I would suggest you speak to Rebecca. Jeez, what's wrong with my brain tonight? I suggest you speak to Rebecca, the national coordinator in the USA, who is actively involved in Colorado. She lives in Boulder, Colorado, and is actively involved in my brain is really going at the moment in the town there in Colorado. Oh my God, I have a complete blank on the town there that they're developing. What's it called again?
Can't remember.
Anyway, Walsenburg, thank you. In Walsenburg. I'm definitely getting tired here. So get involved in Walsenburg, John. That's what I would suggest. And Rebecca can point you in the right direction and introduce you to all the people there. So Christine, in Germany, is there Ubuntu coordinator in Germany? Yes, there's supposed to be. It's been a bit of a hiccup in Germany. So we need to iron that one out and make sure that our national coordinator for Germany is properly appointed and introduced to everybody and starts managing the Ubuntu Germany pages on the website and the Facebook page, especially the Facebook page, because at the moment it seems to be the main way of communicating. So yes, we need to work on Germany. Christine, if you want to get involved there, please email me. Michael@ubuntuplanet.org. That's on the website, and let's discuss this as a matter of urgency. And then Farm G000, okay. Do the electric power sources discuss the program include free energy or 0-point energy? That's a very complex question. The energy that we're using, the energy technology we're using, is vortex-based technology. It's very advanced stuff. It is unlike anything most people have seen, and it comes with all kinds of benefits, not just generating electricity. So yes, you can call it 0-point, but it's actually, I guess it's a lot more. It's quite a big deal, but I don't want to get into this right now, especially not until we've signed the contract. Once we've signed the contract and it's signed, sealed, and delivered, and we're starting to build the plant, then obviously the information will go out there and it'll become public knowledge. I just don't want to. I don't want to jinx anything at this stage by spilling too many beans, because it is a very sensitive issue, as you know. Electricity is one of the major controlling tactics of the global elite to control the people. M, would you come to Italy to give a seminar in 2020? Yes, absolutely. I've got a whole new plan of action for Europe. As I did this year, we had a very successful tour of Europe, UK, Sweden, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Slovakia, and Italy will be on that list as well. And also Spain and other countries, Holland and so forth. So also Richard, thanks. If we are able to build a template for the business model for VCs. What is VCs? I don't know what VCs are.
Take that one, Mike.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Venture capitals.
Oh, yes.
So I think that's questions referring to the investor model I was talking about. And I should have had it ready by now, but I've been spending the last 4 months working on with the people for the donation versus looking at investment. So I'm hoping to get back at that investor forum model within the next month or so and have something out there for people to use that as a model.
Awesome. That's awesome. And I think what I will do, Ron, as well, is let me have a chat with my investment banker in Seattle. I'll contact him tomorrow morning, and I will find out what the progress is on their front, because he was really excited when he last spoke to me about this. And he's got a group of about 6 investment bankers that are really, really hot on this subject. And they themselves are putting together their packages and spreadsheets and models and plans. And I think it'd probably be a good idea for them to speak to you to pick your brain on some of the challenges and success stories that they might be able to build into their model and their plan. So once I've spoken to them, sure, I'll hopefully put you together. And I think VC, venture capital, of course. My brain is too tired right now. Camille, Amapachama Foundation, School for Transmission of New Generations, would like to invite you as a teacher. Is that aimed at me? Camille, if that's aimed at me, that sounds great. Let me know. Email me and let's have a chat about this. I'm not sure how how me as a teacher would fit into a school, how that would work, if it's online or if it's some other way, please email me and let me know, or we can have a Skype chat on that. And then Chris carries on. When you do a Google search, there's a conflict with Ubuntu meetups being confused with Ubuntu Linux. Yes, unfortunately, that's just one of those things. This is why Ubuntu meetups are going to be on the Ubuntu website. So this is why our website has become such an important issue. So everything happens from the Ubuntu Planet website, and not any other place that confuses it with the Ubuntu Linux thing, you know. So isn't it interesting that the Ubuntu movement came from South Africa? The car that the Tesla car that was sent into space to Mars was created by a South African, Elon Musk, and the Ubuntu Linux movement has been created by a South African as well. Interesting how South Africa features in this quite heavily. Whatever you make of that, I'm getting tired. I think we're done here, guys. Just want to thank you all for joining up and for contributing, especially to Ron for sharing his experience and his wisdom. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
For Rebecca and giving us an update on Ubuntu USA, and also to Travis sharing his experience running for mayor of Austin, Texas. Yeah, this video will go live. It will be made available on the website for others to enjoy as well in a week or so. In the meantime, if you have any bright ideas, do email me. I do take some time every day to answer the emails, but unfortunately, I've had to really minimize the time I spend on the Ubuntu movement since the funding is just so low, and I've got to work a little harder to survive every month and every year. So until we meet again, and I trust we will announce the next meeting very soon. I trust we'll have a meeting in a month again. We try and do this monthly, and I look forward to catching up and sharing more information with everybody. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to Neil for hosting it and setting it up. And until next time, it's goodbye from me.